It's really funny too because like most of what guys hear from like quote modern girl opinions, it's the algorithm promoting like an attractive girl saying the dumbest thing you've ever said, and then like
Exactly.
that's how they get you. That's so smart because they're making you mad and horny at the same time, and it's just like there's some kind of like demonic pool in like the internet just making, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, you want to see this? This is what it got me as a birthday gift. It's a gorilla. Do you see it?
It's your twin.
And it has a little white Barbie as like like King Kong where he's on the building and he
I
has like
think
the
you've had
Barbie.
that for a while.
I
I
don't.
remember that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh no. She sewed the little white Barbie doll to the hand. That's the new thing she did.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Being married's cool.
You get like unconditional love and support or whatever.
Yeah, for all my dumb little schemes and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I want to start a podcast, babe. Isn't that cool? He's like, yeah. Um, but
If I was a worm, would you still love me? Yeah.
um, yeah. Did you ever see that meme where it was something like a girl just they're on a plane and it's like a girl just asked her boyfriend if he'd still love her if she were a worm and he said no and now she's crying. It was like a picture of a girl crying.
Dude, I see. I don't. How are you supposed to answer that? Like, it's a worm. Like,
Yeah.
I could see scenarios where, like, if you could still communicate, and if I could tell that you were still in there, yeah, I would love you anyways, and we would find a way to make our relationship work. But
Yes.
if you were just a worm, I'm gonna be honest here. I'm going fishing, and you're the bait.
You know what's funny too is, and I feel like as like an addictions counselor, you'd know this too. Like, you're not just. It's not like you can just transfer your consciousness to another thing, and therefore now you're immediately the same thing. Like,
Yeah,
the body keeps the score. Like
yeah.
so much of you is also tied down to your body. You're not just like a ghost in a shell. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, but I the whole reason why I asked you to do this anyways. So we were talking about the what were we just talking about with dating and stuff?
Yeah.
I wanted a single guy's perspective on all this sort of like manosphere kind of you know what I'm talking about. Andrew Tate kind of stuff, but also,
Mm-hmm.
like a single guy's perspective on like what do they call it? Like the loneliness epidemic, you know,
Mm.
where a lot of guys are struggling to find girlfriends and so I don't know, what are your thoughts on all that?
Um, I think with any current issue today, it's very multifaceted, and not and a lot of people don't understand the many facets of it. And I think a lot of it is like the alpha bros, um, you know, what's his face? We just talked about him. Um, the alpha mentality of like Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan and those macho dudes who are just like yeah and whatever. I think that's part of it where it's okay for guys to be self-actualized and to want more out of life. Um, but that's also like I can also see at the same time where it's like cringe and
Hmm.
um where it's just like no, like if you want to use an alpha mentality to actualize yourself and to for self-improvement, great, do it, that's fine, but don't demean others to make yourself feel good, like because it's you against yourself fighting for your future.
Hmm.
It's not you against the people who always put you down. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not trying to get one over on other people. It's not like that. Um, and and then I think a lot of the dating scene is also muddled by these podcasts where women just get on these podcasts and you're like, I want a man who makes at least, you know, a
Mm,
100,000 and, you know, is like 6 foot tall and all this stuff. And you can clearly tell they're just in it for what they can get from the men. They're not really looking for a serious, loving, give and take relationship. And they're just completely shallow. They're not even very good people, to be honest. They can't really hold a conversation. They don't talk about anything intelligently. They don't have skills or abilities or any value they bring to a relationship. It's all about what they can get. And this perspective turns off so many men from even
mm,
dating or trying to find a relationship because they don't want to find that type of person.
mm,
So a lot of men will just say, you know what? I'm comfortable where I'm at. I'm comfortable just with my career, with, you know, going to the gym, improving myself, hanging out with my friends. I don't really need a. Do I want a relationship? Sure, I might, but do I need a relationship? No. So a lot of these men are seeing these women on podcasts or seeing this perspective on the internet, and it's just turning them off entirely. And they're like, you know what? Instead of messing with all this and having the chance of finding a woman like this, I'm just gonna no. I'm just gonna step out. I'm gonna go my own way, and I'm not even going to try.
yeah.
And that perspective
They just
is
go gay.
destructive in its own way, huh?
I said they just go gay.
I know. Uh, some of them might. Some of them might. I don't know. Um, but it's just they are so demoralized that men are expected to. There's so many expectations for men to be this hyper masculine figure and to be this provider, which we are, which we're all this stuff naturally. But but the expectation is for men to do all of this, and women just they don't want to contribute anything. They don't want to. These days, women don't want to have kids anymore. They don't want to be homemakers. They don't, you know, have any skills. They don't know how to sew. They don't know how. They don't have the normal skills it takes to run a household, and they're expecting all of these things, and it's just not congruent to, you know, what they expect. And I think also women are trying to find the top 1% of men when oftentimes their own evaluation assessment isn't as high as that. And not all of them are like this, right? I'm talking about these are some of the challenges, right? And I understand that this isn't everyone, this isn't every situation, this isn't, you know, whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just pointing out the challenges
Hmm.
to dating these days from the general mindset of, you know, the average guy.
Would it be fair to say that you're not talking about everybody, but you're talking about certainly the people who are, thrust, you know, for just who are like placed in, in front on like online in general, right? And then also this sort of mindset is just in the cultural fog, where it's easy to kind of, pick up some of these ideas without even trying to.
Yeah, yeah, and it's easy because we see this is this is mainly just the world being the world, right? This is the world focusing on worldly things where they think that, you know, they're going to get some kind of worth from it. They think, you know, they're just looking to see what they can get. So it's just the world being the world, and it's just like, you know, I want to be rich. I want to see if this next thing can fill this hole in my heart. I want to see if this can bring me worth. I want to see if this can bring me value. I want to see, if this could work. Um, and honestly, man, we're just seeing the gap widen
Mm-hmm.
because we're getting to a point where these ideologies that have been running rampant are reaching their conclusions. So we're seeing, like, for example, like the feminist movement, we're seeing that reach its conclusion because, like 20 years ago, it was like, yeah, let us work. We don't want to be homemakers anymore. Let us work. Let us work. And nowadays, we have women crying on the internet. I just got home from a 40-hour week and I'm exhausted. Who let us do this? And it's like you see it
Yeah.
all the time. And it's like, you, you let yourselves do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you decided that all of a sudden you guys wanted to work and you didn't want to be homemakers. You didn't want to, you know, um, you didn't want to be stay-at-home wives. You didn't want to raise children. You didn't want to. You're rejecting everything natural, and you're going for what you think you want because that's what the world is telling you. But the world cannot give you what you think you need because what you need is only what God can provide.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that is this an okay way of phrasing maybe generally what a problem that we have now, or generally the problem? A lot of times people think that, well, let me back up a little bit. Terms like masculine and feminine, terms like male and female, like gendered categories, our culture confuses sex with gender. Gender has always been a linguistic category. So, like, thinking like Spanish, how there's like el and la, gender is like, it's a, it's a categorical thing, right? It's possible to, so imagine that we didn't live in this kind of weird world where we confuse things like sex and gender, and we confuse, we think that you can change all that. So it's possible that there can be a man, a man who happens to lean kind of feminine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's also possible to be a woman who happens to lean kind of masculine, just based on how that.
Yeah, and like
So
those are
yeah,
natural differences. That's how God created us.
yeah,
And he created us with these differences. He created all these skills and abilities for us to use,
hmm,
for his kingdom.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
and we see confusion when we don't use what we have according to
Hmm.
God's purposes.
Yeah.
And sometimes, sometimes we see the purposes in the Bible. God lays out the principles. God says, "Hey, men are supposed to do this. Women are supposed to do this." Great. Okay, that's awesome. You have the general principle. That's for average men and women. But when you have these outliers and you have, people outside of the gender norms, or people who don't fall into the general um, categories of men or women, and whether you have a man that leans toward feminine, whether you have a woman that leans toward masculine, whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
That is between them and God. What
Hmm.
they want, because it comes back to, I've actually, this is a great example. I have a pastor, my current pastor right now. He is a more feminine man. He has a higher voice. Um, he has all that stuff, and you would not label him as a traditionally masculine man, but he he's one of the strongest Christians I know. He is very in depth with the word. He has an amazing love and passion for God, and he has used that. He has used kind of his more feminine nature to raise two amazing daughters, and um and his the nature he was born with he has not allowed that to drag him away from God's purpose for his life.
Hmm.
And I think that's the point. We're allowing
Hmm.
how God created us to pull us further away from him.
Yeah. I think, and tell me what you think about this. Uh, what I see as maybe a way to sort of interpret a lot of what's going on in the world is we look at like masculine and feminine or male and female. Well, masculine and feminine are they're relational terms. So a what does it mean to be masculine if there are no women? Or what does it mean to be feminine if there are no men? So in our world, we live in a world that's very reductionist. So we try to reduce everything to its own individual parts, and we forget that everything has to go together and have some sort of balance and harmony between them. So like our world thinks that it's like actually possible to be to successfully or to succeed at being masculine in like an environment where there's nothing to be masculine against. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like as if you can be masculine on like an island, not literally, but like as if by yourself with nothing else to compare it to, you yourself can be masculine, as if that's possible without any kind of relationship to other people. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think like we at least like biblical masculinity is being able to provide, being able to survive, being able to go out and take care of yourself and others. And if you're on a island, you are masculine, but you're masculine in the way that you're taking care of yourself, you're surviving, you're thriving, you're building stuff. You
Mm,
are maybe developing skills and abilities that will help you to do that. You're making fire, you're building shelter, you're doing
mm,
traditionally masculine things. But if you don't do those things, you're gonna die.
yeah. Well, I didn't
And
mean
it doesn't.
I didn't mean like an island, like literally. I meant
But
like, like
well,
reducing
yeah.
things.
But
Yeah.
but in the same way, like if a woman is trapped on the same island, she's gonna
Hmm.
need to develop those skills and abilities to thrive too. So it's not just about the gender roles and the gender norms or whatever we try to describe it as. It's about, do you have what it takes to thrive in a changing culture and in a changing world? Do you have what it takes to strive and survive and come out on top? And that's
So
what it means.
mhm. With the island thing, I think you made a good point actually. And okay,
Did
so
I?
yeah, no, okay. Uh, on an island, right? If you are like isolated, like what you said, you have to build fires, you have to do all these things to sort of care for yourself, right? And cultivate all these
Yeah.
particular traits. I think we live in a world where we forget that we're supposed to like live in community with other people, with family, and or just we should live in some kind of community, and we think that we need to like live as our own island. So we're now like I've heard it said that our culture is not overly feminine, our culture is overly masculine, and there's no role for feminine. So whereas like women, they think that they have to really like strike it out on their own and like really fend for
Mm.
themselves. And there's people are told that to submit yourself to a husband or to submit yourself to somebody to provide and care for you, that is that's beneath you, which is that's not an
Mm.
excess of femininity, that'd be an excess of masculinity. And
Yeah,
women are
because
being told
it's
that
that independent.
yeah,
It's the
they're being
man's
yeah,
independent nature.
they're being told that to be a good woman is to basically be a good man, you know?
Mm.
So,
Man, that's a good point. And you said I made that point?
I mean, yeah, kind of.
But no, that is a really good point because have you heard the saying, the best woman for the job is usually a man, or the best man for the job is usually a woman?
I haven't heard that.
But um we've so ingrained in ourselves that in order to be successful, or in order to be strong, you can't be vulnerable. In order to, be successful, you can't rely on others. And it's just, we've lost so much as a society when
Hmm.
we develop that kind of mindset, because the Christian mindset is not an overly masculine mindset.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about the Christian mindset, it is very benevolent. It is very vulnerable. It is very open. It is very honest. It is very loving and caring. And a lot of those are matronly are matronly attributes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think about who does most of the caring, who does most of the support of others, who
Your
does most.
mom.
Some people's moms do that, yeah. So it could be those are very um, those are very feminine attributes.
Yeah.
So, but it's always a balance,
Mm-hmm.
balancing the strength and independence with reaching out when we need help, helping others, supporting others, feeding the helpless, feeding the homeless, taking in the widow and the orphan,
Mm-hmm.
doing all these things. It requires a masculine strength, but also a feminine openness and vulnerability. So it's
Mm-hmm.
both of these combined. You know why? Because God does not have a gender.
Mm-hmm.
We often see God as this male figure, and and he often uses these masculine pronouns, but God is a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus was born as a man, yes. So Jesus was fully God and fully man, but God the Father is a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because a lot of this is just my own speculation and what I think. Um, so I think that God revealed himself in the masculine sense is because back in those days, that was that was what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very masculine society. You think about Moses, you think about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob,
Mm-hmm.
all of the the precursors of our faith, they're all masculine.
Mm-hmm.
There really wasn't a place for
Mm-hmm.
the feminine to take hold.
Mm-hmm. Actually, what's interesting about that though is so I want to say one thing about in Genesis where it says God created like man and woman, that part.
Mm.
So a lot of times when people they hear that like God took the rib from Adam and then made Eve,
Yeah,
what you should think of is the Hebrew it just says side, like
mm.
he took from his side, and don't think like side as if he just like grabbed the glob out of it, out of him.
That's what I
Like
was like picturing. It
no,
was
no, no.
like
The
I
thing
took
is,
that.
if you're gonna say this, if you say the side of a ship or the side of a bed, what do you think? You don't think that like you're grabbing a glob. You're thinking, oh, the half of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it means.
Mm.
So God, and when you hear Adam's not a name, Adam just means man. So God took man, pulled him in half, and then it says God made man like humanity. God made humanity in His image, Ish and Isha, male and female. He
Mm.
created them. So like that, the image of God is bound in male and female. So it's not like a men and the women are derivative of men. It's that both contain or both together are the
Yeah.
image of God. But the other thing
Exactly.
though, when you're talking about God revealing himself as male, I think that one kind of has to do with like gender, like categories of gender are like a relational thing. So that like
Mm.
we would say that as being in the church is the bride of Christ. So in relation to Christ, you and I would be feminine. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So then like in relation to just in relation to God in general, we'd be feminine. We'd have sort of a feminine aspect because it's like a categories like masculine and feminine are like relational ones. So that's why I,
Yeah.
I would think it would, and because like in the way that like man is the head of the family, but Christ is the head altogether. I think it's like
Yeah.
that kind of it's like a hierarchy thing, you know. Not yeah. Anywho.
Yeah. And and the way God reveals himself changes
Mm-hmm.
depending on the society and the culture. Like the way God teaches us changes in different seasons. The way we view God changes. God doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
God is God is eternal. God is never changing.
Mm-hmm.
But the way we seek God and the way we understand God changes. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same way. You can walk around a building 4 different ways and view it from different angles, and you can see basically a different building each time. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
the building has changed, it's that our perspective relative to the building has changed. And
Mm-hmm.
the building is so big, we can't take in all of it at once.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
same with God.
Mm-hmm.
We can walk around God in different seasons of our lives and
Mm-hmm.
see and understand different views of him. He is the same God, but he is also so big
Yeah.
that we can't view all of him all at once. So
Mm-hmm.
we take these kind of pictures of God
Mm-hmm.
and kind of say, okay, God, you're right now, you're this right now to me, but later you're going to be this to me. Or but I know you're always this.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I connect what I'm feeling right now and who you're showing yourself to be right now to who
Mm-hmm.
you always are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's really cool, and we can talk about our perspective, and we can talk about all these things. But I know we're talking about dating and relationships right now,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the same thing. The way you view your significant other can change over the course of your relationship, and that's okay. Change and growth is very natural. But
Mm-hmm.
if you, but at the same time, I believe that relationships without God,
Mm-hmm.
they just don't work.
Yeah.
So, and that's where we see most of the confusion. That's where we see most of the hardship and the difficulties in relationships nowadays, is because they have taken God completely out of their lives, out of their minds, and out of their relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing a lot of this confusion. We're seeing a lot of this, anger and just like, well, I want it this way, and it needs to be this way in order for me to accept it, and this way, and this way, and this way, and we're seeing all of this. Like, well, no, that's not how it was supposed to be. That's why
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling like something is off and wrong. It is
Mm-hmm.
because that's not the way it was ever supposed to be. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling confused because it's been warped and twisted in such a way that it's not even that it doesn't even feel natural anymore.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you ever have these conversations with guys not like now where they talk about dating and gender and all? I feel like it comes up a lot just after like you've had those conversations with your friends where you hang out the whole day and then when you're like about to leave, everyone starts just like a very heart to heart and everything, you know?
Yeah, they just unload everything
Yeah. But
all at
you
once. And it's
I
like, whoa, where'd this come from?
I feel like I've had those conversations a lot about this particular topic about like the loneliness crisis and all this and that
Mm.
and hard to find a girlfriend. But whenever I tell people, you know, well, if you want to find a girlfriend, I know you can't just walk up to somebody in the street. I know that. You can't do that anymore. And that
Mm.
sucks. But you should probably go to church, man. And
Yeah.
then they go, I'm like, well, what do you want from me? You know?
Exactly. And it's like, oh, what? It's like, no, 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 no. That's how that works.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, like
yeah, it's just like,
well, it's what it shows is that people want to like interact with people on these like individual basis, divorced from like culture and community, as if you can exist
mm,
as like an individual point. That's why like it makes sense that you're going to meet people in high school and in college and in church or at work, but like this idea that like this random girl, just isolated, divorced from any kind of culture or whatever, is just going to interact with you and just like sparks fly and everything. That's not how that
yeah,
works, you know.
yeah. But it's definitely interesting. Um, and I think a lot more can be said. But yeah, it's just we're seeing the repercussions of a society that has completely rejected God,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we're seeing. We're just now seeing the consequences because it societal consequences take time to manifest, and I think we're seeing that.
Mm. Lit. Um, did you want to kind of wrap up the recording? We'll just keep talking afterwards, though. But
Yeah.
if you had like, I'll say my three advice to any young people if they want, I don't know, advice on where to find a girlfriend or whatever, and then maybe you can give your three pieces of advice.
Well, I want to hear yours because I don't think I
Okay.
have any because I'm still trying to find one.
Okay. This is my advice. All right. I would say, uh, actually, I only have two pieces of advice. So, no, I guess three, 2/3. Get a job, like
Mm.
learn a skill and like keep your job and don't like bounce around. Just keep your job and go to church and then
Mm.
trust that God will provide someone for like will bring someone into your life. And if not, that's fine. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
yeah, that's really all I have because I
that's
got
some good
lucky.
pieces of advice.
I got lucky, and we met in high school, so not everyone has
Mm.
that. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I met in high school that I wish I wouldn't have met in high school.
Yeah, but anywho,
Yeah, I think that's all I got. The church is a
yeah,
good one. Just keep
hmm
going to church, and then also I want to add to that actually.
hmm
Get out of your comfort zone.
yeah,
Get whatever it is, wherever you found your niche. Get
hmm
out of it. Whether that means going out to public spaces more often, whether that means hanging out with a friend group you don't usually hang out with.
yeah,
Um, if that means talking to people more often, reaching out, being mindful and about your connections and putting more effort in,
hmm
whatever it is, just get out of your comfort zone. You
and can I?
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
And if I could add one thing to that too, people should probably get off the internet because it seems much worse online
Mm.
than in real life. If you hear more girls online than you do like in real life, it's probably not great. And then you're gonna think that the world is out to get you, and it's much worse than it actually is. When like
Exactly.
yes, there are certain ideas that are just kind of like proliferated through the cultural fog that people kind of carry, but it doesn't take that much of a conversation to dissuade someone of a bad opinion when you actually get into the
Mm.
real world.
Yeah, and that's so true. Is because the internet is very view centric. It's very
Mm,
you centric. It's very yeah, because what do you think? It's just like with the news. What do you think sells more often? Bad news sells more often. So
hmm
what do you think they're going to promote? The bad news. What do you
Yeah,
think they're going to highlight? The bad perspective. The
yeah,
everybody's out to get you perspective because people like it when they confirm
yeah.
when outside sources confirm their own
Well,
biases.
it's really funny too because like most of what guys hear from like quote modern girl opinions, it's the algorithm promoting like an attractive girl saying the dumbest thing you've ever said, and then like
Exactly.
that's how they get you. That's so smart because they're making you mad and horny at the same time, and it's just like that's that's definitely like that's like there's some kind of like demonic pull in like the internet just you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
it knows it, and that's the dude. Yeah, that's what it
yeah,
is.
but
But
yeah.
I gotta go into work at 10, so I'm gonna take a
Oh
nap.
crap. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, man. I didn't know
but
I was keeping you from
no
that.
no 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 no, no, you're good.
All right.
I can make my own decisions. I know exactly. I'm
Yeah.
good.
All right, man.
But man,
Well,
I really
thanks.
enjoyed this. I will talk to you later.
All right, bro.